Eli Stowers is going to be a matchup nightmare for Virginia Tech.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. If you're free, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So this is going to be interesting, okay? As we continue to break down this matchup, we got an early look at him before. Now Clark Lee, we've listened to what he has to say at his press conference and all that stuff. And, we're going to look at, this hostile environment. That's a factor here. So we're going to look at how to manage that and how to get the crowd out of the game as quickly as you can. Kyron Jones is an absolute weapon. We know that. We know how good he is athletically, but his decision-making is iffy, and there's a way to get him. We're going to talk about that. But first, this defense, this Hokie defense is kind of their calling card. They are very, very stingy. As I said last episode, they sacked Lenore Sellers 4 times. They were able to make things muddy and murky for this passing game. Virginia Tech had to slog through 3 quarters before they really kind of started picking things up. So what does that mean for Vanderbilt? Now, I think, with South Carolina, they have Nick Harbor, but really, what else did they have? There were some guys that you just weren't sure about coming into the first game. You weren't sure about tight ends. You weren't sure about different things. They were kind of out of sync, trying to figure things out, trying to figure out who their playmakers were. I think Vandy's in a different scenario here. I think Vandy knows far and away what it wants to do identity-wise and who it wants to use to attack and fulfill this identity. And Eli Stowers is as big of a part of that as anybody. And he is a matchup nightmare. He's going to wreck Virginia Tech. And I think Vanderbilt's going to take advantage of that. They saw something with the tight end against Virginia Tech, and Eli Stowers is obviously the front runner for the John Mackey Award. He is far and away the best tight end in the country, and he's going to run away with that, I think, and he's going to prove that. He's a little bit more healthier, so there's going to be ways that they're going to get him the ball in space. They're going to try different things, pushing him down the field. They're going to put him in some crossing routes, some RPO stuff, some screens. They're going to do some things with him to get him the ball, get him running, and get him in space. So that's going to be something that I think they look at tremendously, because that's a weapon for Vanderbilt, and that's something that they can use to be able to move the ball downfield, to be able to control the ball, to be able to move the sticks, to be able to rack up that time of possession and be explosive all at the same time. That's a delicate balance, because you have these ball control offenses that aren't flashy, they're not pretty, they're not very explosive. They just chew you up 5 yards at a time. Vanderbilt had to be that last year, and they did that. They would take a few shots downfield every once in a while, but they weren't very much of a vertical presence. They weren't really even a downfield passing presence all that much. That changes. And as good as they're going to be in the run, Eli Stowers is going to be a massive part of this game plan. And if the Virginia Tech coaches are listening to this, it doesn't matter. You're not athletically, I don't know. You're going to have to dedicate a corner to him, which is going to leave some guy that has some speed on somebody that can't cover him. There's going to be somewhere that you're missing out. Someone's going to have to cover Cedric Alexander out of the backfield. I don't know if you saw that guy. He runs good routes. He just makes big plays in the passing game. That dude is he's electric, right? And for someone, I thought this comment was odd, because he's never been a burst guy, but he's just fast. He's just smooth, fast, just gets on you quick, man. And that's his game. and he's smart. He's a smart runner. He understands running lanes. He understands blocking schemes very, very well. And he just kind of understands where the ball needs to go. And he understands, hey, when can I be patient and when is it be my own blocker situation? Like he understands that, and he's very, very effective. So with Eli Stowers, and obviously Virginia Tech's going to key on that because the run game killed them last year. He killed them last year. This offensive line bulldozed them last year. So I guarantee you, I know exactly what they're working on. Stop Pavia from running. Stop Seti from running. Throw bodies at the run game. Make them beat you in the passing game. Because they still don't believe, because it's Charleston Southern, and they were 1-11 last year. They were pretty bad. They don't believe that Vandy can still pass, but I also don't think there's anybody that can cover Eli Stowers, and that's going to be exploited, and that's going to open some things up. That's going to allow them to stretch it vertically, and in some scenarios, going to allow them to stretch things horizontally as well. So that's going to get Virginia Tech in some trouble. And when you can do that, you put yourself in a good situation to really dictate the game and really control the line of scrimmage, because you got linebackers having to worry about, okay, Stowers is going this way, Seti's coming downhill, like Pavia, you have the jet sweep, you have the slants coming in, you have the out routes, you have the the go stuff, if we get too much of a blitz on Pavia, he's going to step up and get big yardage. Like, there's a lot to worry about with this Vanderbilt offense. And it's so fun to say that, because you never really said that about a Vandy offense, because Vandy's never really had an identity. They've never really had a plan, and now they do. And so this is you kind of have to worry about it now. And Stowers is probably one of the best weapons that Vandy's ever had, and he is, especially at the tight end position. Like he's just so versatile in what he can do and how he can attack you, that you can't really truly prepare for everything that he can do, because he's a big physical presence, but he's also fast, and he can also jump, and he can also make contested catches. He can block a little bit. He can run with it. I mean, he can do a lot of things. And so this will be a huge, huge mismatch that if I'm Tim Beck, I'm seeing how many different ways can I get Stowers here, there, and everywhere? How can I make that happen? There's a little hide screen that they do from behind the line of scrimmage that I really like, where it looks like he's going to kick out the end and just slips him and gets into the flat, and Pavia pulls it, just kind of, it's not really a read. He's just going to make you think it's an option, and he dumps it. And I think there was once where they actually covered the tight end, and it wasn't supposed to be that. He like, you could see him stop and pump fake it. It wasn't really pump fake. He was actually going to throw the ball, and he pulled it back, and he ran, took off. Like that kind of thing. So they're going to not only like they're going to have to contain Seti, they're going to have to contain Pavia, they're going to have to contain Eli Stowers. That's a lot. And then you got Caleb Barnett, you got Trey Richardson, who has some serious speed. Junior Sherrill, if he can play. He's been limited this week, so it's going to be questionable whether or not he can play. Richie Hoskins is Mr. Reliable. He's going to make some big catches, and in some key situations. Like, there's some things that they're going to do. Now, cut down on the penalties, and you're there. So, this defensive line was described as disruptive, havoc-seeking, and the way to do that is to beat them at their own game. They're aggressive. You take advantage of that, put them out of position, make them run, right? Don't play into that. Don't play into these long drop back passes this week. Get the ball out quick, screen them, make them run, trap them, block them down, kick them out, do some things in that with quarterback lead stuff, jet sweep. If they're going to be aggressive, if they're going to come upfield and be aggressive, get around them. There ain't nothing they could do. Those linebackers, they're gonna have to play too much space, and there's got some speed, and it's just going to be trouble. So that's how you do a very disruptive defensive line. They'll slow down. They'll have to, and Virginia Tech will have to play base. And Vanderbilt is finally in a position to where they can force defenses, and they can finally start dictating a little bit about how defenses are going to attack them. They've always kind of been on the reactionary side. Now, for the first time, well, not for the first time, but like, this doesn't happen very often, but this is a scenario where hey, we're in a position to dictate, and we're going to make you react. And when you get a defense on their heels reacting all the time and not able to dictate how you play and disrupt your timing, it's dangerous, man. And you're going to move the ball with relative ease, and you're going to come out of there going, wow, that was easy. So anyway, that's kind of how I see offense going. I think with the pre-snap movements, the horizontal stretch, the vertical stretch stuff that they like to do, they're more aggressive with the play calling now in year 2 of Diego Pavia. Like, everything's starting to kind of click a little bit, and I'm interested to see kind of how that looks in that environment against that defensive line. They played in an SEC environment, so like they played in Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, so like the intimidation factor is just not there. It's just a matter of, do they get caught up in the hype? We're going to talk about the environment in a little bit, but that's kind of how I see that going. But, on the other side of things, Kyron Jones is a very talented quarterback. But like, how do you disrupt his timing? How do you get him into those poor decisions? How do you get him in a situation where he's frantic and on the run? We'll talk about that next. Mazda craft cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow that moves every time they drive. They follow what moves every time they drive. So that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Now, Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, you can feel it in the moment you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, the standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV, all that stuff, whether it's quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes it everyday drives feel even more special. So it's the small details that makes big plays. And just like that, there's more to every player. There's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is phenomenal, right? This is a fun game. Virginia Tech, you're playing on the road. You're playing for something. You're a marquee matchup in a week where, hey, you have a chance to show the world. Unfortunately, it's on the ACC network, but you have a chance to show the world. Now, here's some things that I see. Okay, we talked about in the first segment, Eli Stowers create matchup problems for Virginia Tech. Also, we talked about neutralizing Virginia Tech's very disruptive defensive line. They got to find ways to stretch the field, and they've got to do it both vertically and horizontally. Now, number 3 is a big one because it also pertains to limiting Kyron Jones. You got to limit the big plays in the passing game. That's how they get momentum. That's how they got momentum last year. You have to make them drive the ball, right? You have to make them drive the ball. So Kyron Jones, and Clark Lee said that himself. He's a special athlete. He's a weapon. He's got everything. He's a total player. He's got everything you want in a quarterback, and he's very excited to, compete against Kyron Jones. So how do you defend a guy like that? How do you defend a guy like Kyron Jones? He's got the arm strength. He's got the mobility. He's got the size. He's got the experience. He's got all of that stuff, right? How do you do it, right? That's the golden question. How do you do it? So last year, I think they had a great game plan against him, and I think this year they'll have a similar game plan. And what that is this. When you have a big mobile guy like that can run and that can throw, that has a big arm, okay? And this is a similar game plan to how they're going to have to play Lenore Sellers, okay? But you have to get pressure in on him, right? And it's not just throwing bodies at him, because he's gonna eat that up, and he's gonna find some run lane, and he's gonna go for 20 yards before he slides, right? Before he's even touched. You have to muddy things up for a guy like that, because his decision making is iffy, and you have to take advantage of that. He's somebody that's going to turn over the ball. if pressured. Like he's going to get his eyes down on the rush if you muddy it up enough. And that's something that I think can be a weapon for Vanderbilt's defense. Now, Drones is a weapon. So if you let him get the deep ball over top of you, which is prone to happen, if you let him complete big chunk plays, if you let him out of the pocket uncontained and allow him to run free, if you allow him to run in the quarterback run game, which they do, you have to blow that up. He's going to get going, and this crowd's going to get going, right? So for a guy like Kyron Jones, like I think you just have to muddy it up. And how do you do that? You push the pocket from the inside. I call it a slow rush. It's sort of a misnomer because you're not really like slow, but you're not really in a, you're going fast, but you're not really in a hurry, right? And you're not trying to, whip the blocker in front of you and get there quickly. You want to force him to see it, right? Kind of like what Capers did to get the sack fumble against Charleston Southern. He drove his guy, and then at the last second, boom, he came off, hit the quarterback fumbled. Like that type of thing. Like that was a running quarterback. Like you have to keep those guys contained, because if you have an even rush and you create that pocket around him that's collapsing, that's constricting, right? He gets bottled up in there, and he gets more concerned with how the heck am I going to get out of here? His eyes go down, and he doesn't see his receivers. Now things change, and things are happening really, really fast, because when he picks those eyes back up, if he happens to escape, he's got to redirect and unscramble his brain. And a lot of times he sees things that aren't there. That's what quarterbacks do. And oftentimes those throws either go errant and picked off or fall incomplete when they should be complete. So the timing is thrown thrown off. And you get a guy that he's going to get his eyes down on the rush. And you don't do that by rushing out of control and just trying to win a rep and look good on TV for the scouts. If you want to look good for TV, if you want to look good for scouts, you play your assignment, you're going to make the plays. You're going to get him dancing, you're going to get him moving, you're going to get him happy feet, you're going to get some errant throws. You're going to get at least one takeaway from him if you can do that. If you can successfully contain him in the pocket with a muddled rush, a murky rush, you're going to get there. Hands up when he throws, hit him if you can, if it's not illegal, and get him on the ground. Make him pick himself back up. If he runs, punish him. That's what they're going to do to Diego Pavia. That's exactly how they're going to play Pavia. Like they played Sellers. They're going to make it tough on him in the run game, and they're going to push the pocket from the inside, force him to stand in there and take hits if he's going to throw from the pocket, which if Vanderbilt's smart, they're not going to really throw from the pocket a whole lot. They're going to do some quick stuff. They're going to do some things to get the ball out of his hands. Now, that being said, Pavia's a better decision maker. Pavia's aggressive, but he's smart with the ball. Kyron Drones, I'm not saying he's not smart with the ball. I'm just saying he makes some poor decisions. And that's something that Vanderbilt's going to have to take advantage of. That's the plan that you have to have. And yes, we've acknowledged that he's a weapon. And that's how you do it. That's how you get to him. You muddy the waters there. You play your linebacker slow play. If he does break out, bam, you're there to hit him. And you just make life hell on the receivers. You jam them, you hit them, you trap them, you make them think you're playing off coverage. You come down at the snap, boom, pop them at the line of scrimmage. Any of that stuff, right? You have to disrupt the timing, because Drones is also a timing guy. If you disrupt his timing, and a lot of quarterbacks are. It's not unique to Kyron Jones, but like things that I like to see, and things that Steve Gregory should know playing for Bill Belichick, which if you watch that game against TCU, that's not really much of a flex, but it's when you think about Bill Belichick's golden years, he wore the green dot in the NFL for Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick still knows defense. He's just not in tune with college kids, apparently. So, but Steve Gregory knows how to attack. He's probably thinking, what would Bill do in this situation? And Bill would jam receivers, make sure they can't get off clean, and get people in Kyron Jones' face, hands up, contact, knock him around, even just bump him. Like if you can just get a bump on him right after he throws, like just anything that disrupts his timing and makes him think about his release and his follow through, you're going to affect him, right? You're going to affect him. And so that's something that you got to think about when you think about pressuring Kyron Jones. So nonetheless, whatever you decide to do, however you decide to attack, both offensively and defensively, your main goal is to get this crowd out of the game, right? Because they're going to be jacked up. It's a home opener. Enter Sandman's going to be blasting, all that stuff. How do you do it? We'll talk about it. We'll answer that question. But you got to stick around. Speaking of answering questions, FanDuel. I have a lot of questions for FanDuel, but maybe there's answers. I don't know. The NFL season's almost here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with the can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building same-game parlays, or even pumping in live action as it unfolds. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye out on your fantasy lineup, whatever the case may be. It's quick and easy and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. You can do this with Saturdays too. Not necessarily your fantasy lineup, but like you can bet same game parlays and do all the same stuff with college football that you can in the NFL. So are you ready to play? Well, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Also, Monarch Money. People can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. So Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet, right? And I can identify where I'm spending too much money, probably take out. I can identify different ways to save and different accounts and things like that. And Monarch is there to help you with that. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen. Locked On SEC. If you need a second listen when you're done here, it's going to be fun, man. The season's going to be fun. And it's going to start here in Blacksburg. And we talked about the matchup problems that Eli Stowers creates. We talked about Kyron Jones and how you affect him. We know what he is. He's a great athlete, great arm, good quarterback. Just his decision-making under pressure, under duress is a little iffy, right? It's a little iffy. And South Carolina proved that. Vanderbilt proved that a year ago. And several teams proved that throughout the course of their 6th and 7th season. So one thing we do know about Virginia Tech is this. Lane Stadium is a tough place to play. They got Enter Sandman going. Their fans get jacked up. Like it's a pretty tough environment. And Vanderbilt's got to learn how to manage those. And obviously, Tiger Stadium is what it is, and they were okay. But they didn't handle it too well after the first half. Georgia State was a tough environment. In a different way, they handled that just as poorly. Missouri was a tough environment. They handled it really well until they doinked the field goal, which it happens. But still, it's just bad luck. But they were able to handle Kentucky and Auburn and those environments. Those are tough environments to play in. So I think this ranks up there with any SEC environment. So when you look at it and how to manage it, that's something that I think is imperative that you prepare for as you get ready to go and play. Now, one of the things you do to prepare is like if you're playing Tennessee or you're playing somebody that has a song, like the song that fans just get annihilating, they just go through the roof. Enter Sandman is that song. It's either Rocky Top or War Chant or Boomer Sooner or, any of those songs, Woo Pig or whatever these teams do as their main song that they play repeatedly. For Virginia Tech, that's like Enter Sandman. You blast that and you get to where you hate that song and you hear that and you're just like, God, I'm ready to focus, right? That's what you do. You get ready. You blast in the crowd noise. You blast that music. You get the guys. If you can get them hating that song, and that's making that song the bane of their existence, they will come out with a chip on their shoulder, pissed off. If you blast the sound, if you blast the noise, because it's going to be loud, it's going to get them to be able to communicate and be able to focus. Like I wish, next time I see Jawan, I'm gonna ask him, but like getting your mind clicked over, it's like that movie For the Love of the Game where he goes clear the mechanism, boom, and it just drowned out everything. Like, I wonder how that actually works. I know how it works on a high school level, but I never really played past high school, or I never actually played past high school. The market for 5'8", 200-pound fullbacks was not there. So, I wasn't blessed physically to be able to play college football, unfortunately. But I wonder, like, you go into an environment like that, like how do you block out all that stuff? Is it just something that just clicks and it's just innate? Like once you finally get hit for the first time, like, is it something that you just don't hear it at all? Is it something where as they're building momentum, the crowd noise comes back? Like, I wonder how that works. But I do know this: at practice, you have to learn how to fight through all that blaring noise. Like, I remember being on campus at Georgia, and they would be blasting the crowd noise. They'd be blasting Rocky Top in the stadium. Like, they would be playing it, and they would have to practice in that, just be immersed in that noise. It's very overwhelming. It's very tiring. So that's part of your mental / physical conditioning, is having that sound bath, essentially, of just Enter Sandman versus with crowd noise blended in, and it's just bearing down on you. Like, you have to learn how to play in that chaos, because it's going to be crazy. They make a couple of plays, that crowd's going to be in a frenzy. If you can't respond, you're cooked. And so that's something that you have to kind of prepare for. And when you have a hostile environment, if you can focus, and Clark Lee even made mention of this, like, you have to be able to focus on the players. Like, the 70,000 screaming rabid fans aren't on the field. They're not playing the game. So you can't focus on them. You have to focus on what's going on in front of you, and you have to focus on all of that. If you get lost a little bit into that, you're screwed. And it can get away from you in a hurry. And I've seen that happen. So teams that can block that stuff out usually do well on the road. And a guy like Diego Pavia, who thrives on that, like, he gets energy from people booing him and from crowds like that. Like, it seems like he plays better with that. I think you're in good shape there. So I'm interested to kind of see what that looks like and how that rolls. But it's going to be a lot of fun nonetheless. And this is a game where, like, I think if you can make a few plays early, you get the crowd on its hands a little bit. They're already kind of nervous about Brent Pry. They're already kind of like sort of out on him a little bit, especially after the first week loss, like how they lost and everything, and just kind of where the direction they're going. There's not a whole lot of confidence there. And I think if things start to go wrong, those fans are going to get really restless. And it's going to be really, like, you might actually be able to calm it down a little bit, right? And Vanderbilt's used to the road games. Like, that's a thing that shouldn't be a thing for them, is the road environments, because they play 12 road games a year. So it shouldn't be anything noteworthy for them. They should just walk in and go, it's another loud crowd. Quarterbacks are used to dealing with that all year long. So that should be something. And I think that's going to be something. And I think that's going to be the first element. Take the crowd out. Win the crowd, as they say in Gladiator, but you're not really winning the crowd. You're taking them out. Or you went over the crowd, I guess, or I don't know how you would describe it, but making the crowd not be so crazy and frenzied is the goal, and making them quieter and making them understand what's happening Like this is, you got to stake your claim. And that's, I see that happening. They're going to hate Enter Sandman. They're going to find those matchups. They're going to get after Kyron Jones. It's going to be, and I'll give you the more detailed prediction later in the week. But here we go. Enter Sandman. Until next time, we got a crossover coming up with Alex Dono of Locked On ACC, and then we'll get you ready for the game. And the newest thing that came out, I'll talk about that with the with Langston Patterson and Issa Utara doing the filing lawsuit for their redshirt year. We'll talk about that, what that means as well on a later episode. But until next time, anchor down. Peace. Later.